just starting out, I want to tell you over the traps that I use, go over that, and then we'll go over the main sets that I like to use. Mostly flat sets, a center hose, a few dirt holes. If I do that, it's mostly a trench set. The traps that I use are 90% the 550s and 450s on some of the trench sets where I can control where they're going to be. This year I'm switching over to almost all drags. As I get older, it's on the pull days and the set days, it's just physically harder to pull them. So you are carrying a little bit of extra weight with these drags and the expense. But when I was a kid, if you caught an animal the next night, you could just bet you were going to have another one caught in that trap circle the next morning. But it's not the case anymore, and it seems to be more so in Texas than in Arkansas at home. But the ranches that I trap in Texas, the trap circles, and part of it you can tell what's going on in Texas because of the dirt. That you can see the tracks where they just peck, peck, peck all around that trap circle. It might be in a 2-week trip out there, you catch one in the early part of the first week. You'll be lucky in a remake if you catch one before that second week is over. So by using the drag, they'll get off out there away from your set. You don't have to re-lure, rebait. Your dirt hole is just exactly like you left it if it's a baited set. If it's a set host, I use these vertebra bones a lot. I brought one of mine that I use a lot. I like them to have the long bone on where I can drive that down in the ground. But I'll cover it, and I'll go over that in the set making of it. But a lot of times you don't even know you made a catch. Because if you don't see that chain out there, you won't know that you made a catch because they're so undisturbed. They get off out there and get out of the truck, and you're looking at the trap, and all of a sudden the bobcat jumps out of the bush right there. They hide. So it adds a little bit of excitement to your second. But these T-bones, I'll put a little piece of sheep wool in that vertebra hole. Works. It's not necessary, but I think it kind of helps some of it from evaporating. But like I say, the disadvantage on the drags and chains is the cost and the extra weight. If I'm staking, I use the super stake. For years I used the 2 rebar. Just got tired of carrying that much weight on the rebar and driving an extra stake. So I do like the super anchors. Every now and then I'll have to leave one in the ground, and that's a little bit tough. But again, I use the 550. Switched to some of the alphas this year, or last year, like them. I just don't like the cost. And I can't even get a dealer price on those. I don't know when they're going to finally start letting dealers get them at a cheaper price, but they're a machine now. They'll flat work. But to make one of my scent posts, like I do, I call it a bone in the road. What I'll do is I use a kneeling pad, use a vertical bone, and on the country that I'm in, whether it be Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, it don't matter. A lot of rocks. I will go ahead and do my trap bed before I ever drive my bone. I can get that bone in the ground somehow, but on some of these places it's so tough you can't get the trap bed in, so I'll go ahead and make sure I can get my trap bedded before I ever commit to the spot. And as far as committing to the spot, right
there, he's not latching the trap. He's shoving a little bit of polyfill under the pan so it can squish down, even if it's to help make sure that there's no dirt under it.
I'm not a big bait or lure guy. I make it and sell it, but there's no magic bait or lure. I believe it's location. I think I could catch most of the stuff that I catch without a drop of bait or lure here, and I just don't think it's that big of a deal. The advantage of it is if you miss him on the approach, it will make him peck around there until he gets caught. So that is one of the advantages of the bait or lure to a point. That was some polyfill that I put under there. I've found a source for colored polyfill that nobody that I know of has got any. And if it comes out of your dirt pattern when you've got your trap bedded, a crow will pick that out and just, you'll have a big old wad of white polyfill if you're using white or insulation. With this colored stuff, if it sticks up out of the bed, they're not attracted to it. I've never had one dug up and pulled out because of the polyfill, but it's because of the color. That white will attract them. Okay, so to make this set on my bone in the road, most time I never worry about the wind. And wind in Oklahoma or Texas, anywhere really for that matter, does the wind blow the same direction for more than an hour. So I'm worrying more about a visual location and a natural crossing. I don't walk much. I've got a few places that I might walk to that barn over there, but most of my stuff is I get out of the truck and I slap it in the ground and I go. I don't walk. And so I try to make my trap bed just as small as I can make it for these 550s. I always bed with my free jaw up, and I will screw that thing down till it will not move, whatever type of country I'm in. I will spend more time making sure that trap is bedded solidly, and then I drop my free jaw. Once I get that thing where I can't make it move, I'll drop that free jaw down, and then if I'm using a drag, I will cover the first foot of it or so and make it all blend in. The rest of it, I get it out there. I don't care. I want to see it because that way I'll know I've got a catch and start looking. If he don't hang up just right here, he might be out there over there hiding. And they're going to hide when they see you drive up until they think you're right on. Then they'll make the move. But I've got a little dog that's really good for finding them things if we've got a problem. I had one instance last year where one got a pretty good ways in some rocks before it hung up and the dog found it. But to make this, normally I would have to drive that in with a hatchet. But I want my dog right to the bone. Even on my dogless traps, I want that dog turned towards it more than this right there. And one reason being, you got a dead spot there, but the other, if it's a cat and he wants to come up and run, you might hold him on the elbow. If you've got that thing turned this way, it's going to throw him out. So turn it where the dog is right to the bone, because he's going to be coming this way to rub against it. But, okay, back to where I'm at on the cover. I use a peat moss that I dry all summer. I wouldn't have this dirt in here. And the pan tension on these 550s is heavy enough that you don't have to worry about them going off on you within reason. But I'll just throw my peat moss down there, get it level. And the only time I'll use a sifter is just every now and then just to blend that in with the rest of everything else. On these sit posts or flat sets or bone and road, whatever you want to call them, I want it as natural as it can be. And if the wind's blowing this way, he's going to work it on this side. If it's blowing that way, he's going to still be on the wrong side of the trap. So I still try to force him just a little bit. And I'm not like making runway lights for an airplane. I'm just doing tiny little bits of grass. Just on the back side. And most of these, like I say, are dead center in the middle of the road. I might sit on one side of the road or the other, but most of them are right in the middle of the road. And that, again, is an advantage of the drag. Gets them out of rancher's road, because they will sometimes tear some pretty good holes up. So it gets them off his road where it doesn't tear things up. But as far as baiting and luring it, I use liggets. I've used it for 40 years. When Ron and Pete started making this and selling it 40 years ago, I started buying it. And for years, that's all I used. No bait, no lure, no anything. And I'll put it on the trap side of the bone, and then I'll put a little bit of gusto from Cavens. And just a drop of that, some liggets. Every now and then I'll use urine. But like I say, I'm just not a bait and lure guy. I like a gland lure at that at a set like that. We'll go over trench sets here in a minute. But this set right here, I catch cats, I catch coyotes, it don't matter. The cats are just as attracted to this scent post in the right location as a coyote. It's just a matter of which one gets there first. And even on my trench sets or dirt holes, I'll catch, as many cats one way or the other as I do the one. It's just, the law of average, you're gonna catch more coyotes because there is more coyotes. Probably, if you catch 50 coyotes in 2 weeks, I'll catch 10 or 11 cats. So that's a pretty good average. And then you got your porcupines and your skunks and all that, so. With these, and these are my 2 sets, that's all I do. I don't build these big elaborate sets. A trench set to me is more work than it's worth, really, but I will do it. I just think